curtain opens on the indoor season this week as we go behind the scenes in Basel. And Spain's latest main man, Alberto Berasategui, is interviewed for us by Carlos Costa. Our action this week comes from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And we follow the clay court circuit to Palermo in Sicily. But our headline tournament is the Swiss indoors from Basel. Things in life aren't always free, and Zino Davidoff made a good living providing them to those who could afford them. For the luxury goods manufacturer, quality was of paramount importance, and he would have appreciated the high-class field that assembled in Basel for the tournament that now bears his name. The 25th Swiss Indoor Championships had attracted a world-class field, among them Michael Stich and Stefan Edberg. Andrei Medvedev and Pete Sampras would have joined them, but for injuries. A shame that these 70,000 publicity posters had long ago hit the streets. A popular and prestigious event, Basel also marks the beginning of the autumn indoor season and the final leg of the journey to Frankfurt and the IBM ATP Tour World Championship. To be sure of getting the red carpet treatment to the Festhalle, players have first to master the blues and greens of the other indoor surfaces en route. Winning tennis here is all about adjusting to the pace of the indoor game.
What is important is that you have to be quick, because indoors everything goes a little bit quicker. You have to adjust a little bit quicker than when you play outdoors. That's probably the most important thing.
I like to play fast points, and I always have good reactions and good returns, and that's important when you play indoors.
Jared and Stefan Edberg are two of the three Swedes in the current top 10 players on carpet. The Swedish dominance comes as no surprise to the third, Jonas Svensson.
When we were younger, we used to play all the time indoors. Since in Sweden it's very cold, so we play on carpet indoors all the time.
Yevgeny Kafelnikov has won 70% of his matches on carpet. For other players, the adjustments have not been so easy.
At the beginning of my career, I didn't like it too much. I grew up on an island in the Pacific, so I loved the heat. Indoor tournaments are usually in winter, and it's very cold. To begin with, I didn't like playing indoors at all, because I didn't like the cold. Now I'm able to adapt, and I play more indoors so I can improve my game. So now it's a lot better.
For the fans, life is a lot simpler. Just a question of sitting back and enjoying the tennis.
I think what makes indoor tournaments better than outdoor ones is that the spectators know the program won't change. It will stay the same, since there are never any weather problems, never all those variables. So indoor tournaments get all the spectators coming, knowing what they will see, and there won't be any cancellations or anything like that.
In the top half of the draw at the Swiss indoors, two unlikely semi-finalists emerged. Patrick McEnroe, ranked 100 in the world, and Cristiano Carratti, who charged through 3 rounds of qualifying the previous weekend and had gone on to defeat 7th seed Arno Birch and top seed Michael Stich. McEnroe won the first set 6-3, but Carratti's confidence still looked intact. That was the touch of a confident player. But when it comes to ability on the backhand side, McEnroe is right up there. If you play a shot that well, it needs no disguise. No chance for the Italian. At 5-3 in the second, McEnroe reached match point. And the backhand produced the killer blow. McEnroe through to the third final of his 7-year career. In the bottom half, the 4th seed Wayne Ferreira had come through 2 3-setters against Yared and Rosset. His opponent, Guy Forget, had beaten 2nd seed Stefan Edberg in round 2 and had saved match point against Jared Palmer in the quarter-final. We joined this match at 6-7, 4-5, Forget serving 1 game from defeat. Wayne Ferreira is a runner, and a hitter. Check out this classic example of the modern game. Couldn't do that with a wooden racket. Ferreira was one game away from the final and turning the heat up. Everyone needs a little luck sometimes. It had taken Ferreira to match point. Ferreira just too good. Nothing Guy Forget could do about that level of tennis. In the final, what could Pat McEnroe do to counter the huge returns and confident all-court play of the South African? If Ferreira has one of the best forehands in the game, then McEnroe has one of the finer backhands. It would have to be on form in the final. That's the type of risk you have to take against a man with Ferreira's ground strokes. Brilliance, acknowledged by McEnroe as well as by Ferreira's fiancée Liesl Palmer and trainer Walt Landers. But it was McEnroe who picked up the first set on this break of serve. Six 6-4 to McEnroe in this best-of-5 sets final. The second set was all Ferreira, behind some excellent ground strokes. So now it was one set all. The third set would prove to be pivotal for both players. McEnroe served at 4-all. And not even the speedy Ferreira could reach that volley. Physically, he's in the best shape of his life. More importantly, he is reveling in his good form. He wrapped up the third set in typical fashion. McEnroe realizing he made the wrong choice by hitting to the forehand. He could have done without the ball brushing the net cord. At 5-3 in the fourth set, Ferreira served for the Davidoff Swiss Indoors title. McEnroe was making him work for it, but at 40-15, Ferreira had championship point. The ultimate dead net cord. The victim's still able to laugh. There's nothing else he could do. Ferreira still held championship point at 40-30. No problems this time. He made a lot of friends on his first trip to Basel, and his mind is now focused on one of the 8 spots available at the World Championship in Frankfurt in November.
Now let's see how the excitement in Switzerland has affected the road to Frankfurt. These are the men currently occupying the 8 places for the year-end IBM ATP Tour World Championship in Frankfurt. 2 men have already won enough points to make it, Pete Sampras and this man, Sergi Bruguera, the King of Clay. His performance in 1994 has reinforced his status as the ruler of the red stuff.
I like competing, winning, the feeling of victory, fighting for something and achieving that goal.
Cool and coy. Dynamic. And stylish. Can the Spanish master conquer in Frankfurt? Beauty, politics and passion. Sicily sits alone at the southern tip of Italy. Its international tennis championships take place in the heart of its largest city, Palermo.
Spaniard Alex Corretja, just 20 years of age, was in the second final of his career. In the Sicilian Open final, he faced fellow Spaniard Alberto Berasategui, the newest member of the world's top 10. It was Corretja who started fast. Showing imagination and flair and taking the first set 6-2. His standard didn't drop at the start of the second set either, as he continued to construct winning rallies. These two friends had played 5 times all on clay, but never before in a final. Surprisingly, the lower-ranked Corretja held a 4-1 advantage in matches won. It's always enjoyable to beat your friends and practice partners. Corretja was on the verge of doing just that as he served for the title at 5-4 in the second set. Disappointment for Corretja as he sees his opponent move up a gear just at the crucial time. Berasategui has won more clay court matches this year than any other player. That forehand is a heartbreaker. The match went into a second set tiebreak. The younger Spaniard put his disappointment behind him and, roared on by the capacity crowd, reached match point. But he blew his chance by overhitting the lob. He'd worked so hard, but Berasategui had escaped. The momentum shifted, and in the deciding third set, the world number 9 turned the screw. Corretja fought back from 2-5 down in the third, but Berasategui earned match point at 5-4. Berasategui the champion, but how about Alex Corretja? It takes a man to smile in the face of such disappointment.
Alberto Berasategui's rise up the rankings has been nothing short of sensational. He began last year as a virtual unknown, only distinguishing himself by travelling more miles than any other player. But all the effort paid off at the end of the season when he recorded his first title in Sao Paulo.
My name is Alberto Berasategui, and this is the first trophy I've ever won on the ATP Tour.
The story in 1994 is very different. The 21-year-old has established himself as one of the fiercest competitors on the tour. Berasategui has now blasted himself to 4 clay court titles, including wins at Umag, over Jim Courier at Nice, and in the Mercedes Cup at Stuttgart. The key, of course, is Berasategui's bizarre but lethal forehand. He's the only player on the tour who uses the same grip for backhand and forehand, and it works.
Most normal players would hold it like this. I hold it like this, in what is known as a Western grip, an extreme Western grip. I hit it with the same side on both the forehand and the backhand. I don't change my grip at all, because when I was a kid, I was not very strong. Now, it would be too difficult to change. It would be like starting tennis all over again.
We caught up with Alberto last week during the Sicilian Championships. His friend and fellow top 20 player Carlos Costa agreed to be our interviewer.
Right, Alberto. When did you first realize that you could achieve the level of tennis that you've achieved this year? It first occurred to me about 2 years ago, when I made it into the top 100, but I never thought I could reach this high, the level I'm at now.
And now?
Well, I think about it now because I'm in the top 10, but before now, I never believed it would happen.
Who first introduced you to tennis? Was it someone in your family, a friend?
I started because it was my father's hobby. He built a court where he worked, and he got me and all my brothers to come and play tennis there. Eventually, my brothers got bored and decided to go back to studying, but I carried on with it.
He started hitting when he was 6. He'd mess around with the ball on Saturdays and Sundays. I only started playing when I was 37, and he used to watch me. Then he started playing against the wall. After that, if I didn't play with him, he'd cry.
Tell us a bit about your forehand, how it originated and who taught you it.
The forehand comes from when I was a child. I've been a bit of a superman all my life. I never had any strength as a child, and by holding the racket that way, I found I could hit the ball harder, so I ended up keeping that grip.
What advantages do you see in that grip?
Well, for one thing, I win a lot of matches, so I earn a lot more money.
That's good, that's good. Your mother describes you as a very shy person. Is that true? I mean, how have things changed since you've won all these tournaments?
I haven't really changed. Well, I am a nicer guy than I was before, but...
Come on, let's start again, huh? What changes have you noticed in how people treat you, or have you changed?
Professionally, I have not changed much. My private life is the same. I have the same friends as before. I suppose if my professional life has changed at all, it's that I'm under more pressure now. Every time I go to a tournament, people expect me to make it to the final rounds, when in theory, there's no reason why I should. But apart from that, I don't think my life has changed as much.
Did you think that you'd had a chance of being in Frankfurt at the start of the year?
No, not at all. I expected to remain at about 36 for the whole year. I am now at number 9, and very close to Frankfurt. I will try everything to get to Frankfurt. If I don't make it, no problem. If I do, then it will be a reward for the great year I've had. 400,000 US dollars on offer to the 32 players in the main draw at the Salem Open in Malaysia's capital, Kuala Lumpur. One of the features of the week was how the seeded players failed to live up to expectations. Unseeded 28-year-old Russian Andrei Olkhovsky, who led Russia into its first Davis Cup final just 1 week ago, faced number 2 seed Jaakko Elting in the championship match. Elting was the only seed to advance to the quarter-finals and was on a streak of 9 victories in his last 10 matches. Going into the final, Elting and Olkhovsky were 1 and 2 in the amount of aces delivered, and their serving form continued. Olkhovsky achieved the rare feat of 4 aces in a row to go 3-2 up. Elting has a huge serve as well and backs it up with beautiful touch on the volley. The match had no breaks of serve in the first set. Elting winning the first set tiebreak comfortably 7 points to 1. Olkhovsky had lost the first set in 2 of his 4 previous matches. He didn't get over-anxious. He just continued to play his own game. And calmly achieved the first break of the second set, which he turned into a 5-2 lead. Before levelling the match at a set all. In the decider, Elting went ahead 4-3 and forced home his advantage. The drop volley had been a great help to him throughout the match.
He came out to serve for his 4th career title at 5-4 in the 3rd set. And with nerveless serve-volley tennis, got himself a championship point at 40-30. The lob was long. Jaco Elting now has tournament victories on all 4 surfaces, a record to be proud of.
Now for a look at this week's doubles results. Patrick McEnroe followed up his Basel singles final effort with victory in the doubles alongside fellow countryman Jared Palmer. Unseeded Tom Kempers of the Netherlands teamed up with American Jack Waite to record a surprise success in Palermo. At the Salem Open in Kuala Lumpur, Jaco Elting became the first player this year to win the singles and the doubles titles at the same event, when he and his regular partner Paul Haarhuis captured their 5th victory of the year. The 1994 IBM ATP Tour World Doubles Championship will be held in the Indonesian capital, Jakarta. Last year's champions, Elting and Haarhuis, will be there. The top 8 doubles teams qualify. So far, 4 teams have made it. The Dutchmen will be joined by the Woodies, Connell and Galbraith, and Black and Stark. We'll keep you posted. Now it's our chance to see who's where in the singles rankings. Andre rushes up to 80. Mag Mark II makes it to 69. Elting's up to a career-high 34. And Korecha scales new heights at 28. And on the edge of the 10, the big man in Basel. Into the top 10, and Agassi and Chang have both moved down to make way for the wisecracking Alberto Berisategui. Loss to Karate in Basel means he slips to 3 and Goran's back to 2. But there's no dislodging the injury-hit man at the top, Pete Sampras. And that's it for another week. We'll leave you with an exhibition tennis match with a difference. One played next to the historic cathedral in Monreale, Sicily. Emilio Sanchez took on fellow Spaniard Juan Albert Villoca, much to the bemusement of locals. We'll see you kids again next week. The big names are out in force and showing us their best side. Profile a man at the top of his form after 3 tournament victories in a row. And forget the check, it's the trophy that counts. For this week's action, we go to Beijing, which held its first tour event last year, to Lyon in France, and to the Austrian capital, Vienna. It's a week of top indoor action.
Vienna, a city full of romance. The tennis was a dream too. For only the 2nd time this year, the top 4 seeds made it through to the semi-finals. Andre Agassi had been in sublime form all week, This continued against the defending champion, Goran Ivanisevic. The crowd were in ecstasy as the magician weaved his spell. The number 2 player in the world was merely the support act. For the majority of the match, it was Agassi making the destructive shots, but just occasionally, the Croat decided to match fire with fire. But after just over the hour, Agassi stepped up to serve at match point. In his first tournament since his US Open triumph, Agassi was through to the final in Vienna, and he hadn't dropped a set. Michael Stich, the champion here in '91, had been playing well only in patches. He had to raise his game in the semi-final against Austria's very own Thomas Muster, and he did. The serve and volley were back on track, but one shot Stich had been employing consistently well all week was the lob. It was all over in 48 minutes. Stich was through to his 26th career final and his 5th of the year. His entourage suitably pleased. But standing in his way was the man he'd never beaten in 5 attempts, and who just last month had destroyed him in the final of the US Open. His worst fears were realized in the very first point. Stich was having problems with his forehand volley, none at all with his backhand. But too often, just the task of getting to the net to make the volley was being made impossible. Even when he was being driven to the extremities of the court, Agassi had an answer. Stich somehow managed a share of the first 2 sets, but in the third, Agassi raised his game still further. It was captivating stuff, and although going a break down in the third, Stich was able to counter with his own trademark. But he was never able to coast against the number 1 returner in the world. Agassi, now 2 sets to 1 to the good, and a break-up was poised for the kill. To his credit, Stich kept moving forward with purpose. But his support was getting increasingly subdued, and Agassi's ground strokes just kept going by him. After 2 3/4 hours, Agassi had match point. It had been a quite staggering performance, and tournament directors all over Europe are licking their lips. The number 1 draw in the sport